Hi, everyone. We're just going to give a couple minutes to get started and allow more folks to join.
Hi, everyone. We were giving a minute or two to let everyone trickle into the Zoom. You were hearing silences because we were all on mute. I'll go ahead and we'll kick this off. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on keeping the lights on affordable electric service in Philadelphia. This is part of a weekly series on energy issues and energy affordability that we've been running. We have one more of these webinars next Thursday at noon on water. But I want to thank you for joining us today to talk about electric service. My name is Josie Pickens. I'm one of the co-directors of CLS's energy unit. And I'm joined by my colleague, Cameron Dichter, who is a paralegal in our energy unit. So I'm ready when you are, Cam. Our energy unit advocates for access to safe, affordable water, electric, and home heating services. We do that through direct representation, systemic advocacy, and community education events like today's webinar. The direct representation is direct services to individual energy and water consumers, as well as representation of community groups in advocacy before our state's utility commission. Right now, CLS is closed due to the pandemic. Our physical office is closed, but we have switched to a virtual intake model. Individuals in need of assistance with an energy matter can contact us at our main number, 215-981-3700, and leave a message so that we can complete an intake. The types of cases where we provide advice and representation, there is no limit on the type of cases that we take, as long as the customer lives in the property and has tried to resolve the problem, and they're coming to us for assistance. But the types of cases where we often provide advice are when individuals are struggling to afford their gas, electric, and water bills, when they're unable to access customer assistance programs like CAP, Csrp, and TAP, when they have a shutoff notice or they're seeking to restore service, when they need help with energy efficiency, weatherization, when they need a medical certificate because there's a medical emergency at the property, and tenants who are seeking to maintain service that is shut off due to the landlord's non-payment. So today we're going to cover the status of shutoffs in Philadelphia, the customer assistance program at Pico, grant assistance, weatherization, electric shopping, and how to review your electric bill.
Josie, you're on mute. I don't know if you need a moment. I'll just jump in and say that we're going to be sending out a recording of the presentation and all of the slides afterwards. And if you have questions about any of these slides, you can feel free to contact us, any of us, and we can answer them. Cameron, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I can jump in here on the status of shutoffs. So there was a moratorium on utility shutoffs that was in effect, and that was recently lifted for Pico and PGW. That moratorium ended on March 31st of 2020. So gas and electric shutoffs, Pico and PGW shutoffs can begin as early as April 1st. However, Pico shutoffs for CAP customers, and CAP stands for the Customer Assistance Program, which is Pico's low-income program, and we'll get a little more into that later in the presentation. Shutoffs for customers who are on CAP won't begin until May 17th. The water department is on a slightly different timeline. They're not regulated in the same way that Pico and PGW are. The moratorium or ban on shutoffs for water is going to last through April of 2022. So that means no shutoffs for unpaid water bills. However, there still may be notices of defect, which are notices of plumbing issues that may be issued. So if there's a health or safety reason caused by a plumbing issue, the water department may need to stop someone's service for that reason, but there should be no shutoffs for unpaid water bills. And in terms of late penalties or enforcement measures, those shouldn't go into place for TAP, which is the low-income program for water, or the senior citizen discount customers until April 2022 as well. Outside of that group, late payment penalties and referrals to collection agencies may start as of May 1st, 2021. So when that moratorium on shutoffs was lifted for Pico and PGW, the Public Utility Commission, which is the regulatory agency that oversees and regulates Pico and PGW, they put into place some protections for customers. Those protections are payment arrangements that customers should be eligible for based on their income level. So a payment arrangement is basically when you have a past due balance, rather than having to pay that balance off all at once, you can pay it off in monthly installments. So you can contact the utility to negotiate that arrangement. And again, that's just an arrangement whereby you pay off the past due balance in smaller chunks rather than all at once. The Public Utility Commission has issued some guidance ordering utilities to offer certain minimums in terms of the number of years or months that arrangement is spread across. And those terms will depend on your income level. And that income level is based on the federal poverty level, which is what FPL stands for. So if you're below 250%, or your household rather is below 250% of the federal poverty level, you should be eligible for a 5-year payment arrangement. If you're between 250 and 300%, that goes from 5 years to 2 years. And if you're 300% or above, that becomes 1 year. However, you do have the option to request a shorter payment arrangement term, and the utilities always can offer longer terms. So it's something where you want to contact your utility company and try to request whatever is going to be a reasonable arrangement for you, something that you can keep up with. And you can definitely request longer terms than the minimums that are outlined in that guidance by the Public Utility Commission. And this is important because even if you've defaulted on a prior payment arrangement, you can still get a new payment arrangement thanks to this order that was put forward by the Commission as a result of them lifting that moratorium on shutoffs. So I'm going to talk a little more about PECO's Customer Assistance Program, or the CAP program. This is the main tool that low-income customers have to make their bills more affordable. And there's really two main benefits to this program. The first is a fixed monthly credit that a customer may be eligible for. And that eligibility, or the way that that credit is calculated, is based on the customer's household income, household size, and usage. If you're looking at your PECO bill and you're on CAP, that credit will appear on the second page of your bill that shows how all the bill is being calculated. And that credit becomes a discount that lowers your bill. The other benefit to the program for first time, this is specifically for first time enrollees, is debt forgiveness. So if you have some arrears or debt prior to entering into the CAP program for the first time, what PECO is going to do is they're going to take whatever you owe at that time and they're going to freeze it, sort of set it to the side, and allow you to earn forgiveness on it. And that forgiveness is earned by paying your new bills going forward. So if you owe $120 when you enroll in the CAP program, they're going to freeze that amount, so it won't appear on that first page of your bill. And then if you pay your new charges going forward, each month that you pay that bill, 1/12 would be forgiven. So if it's $120, theoretically after a year of keeping up with your new bills, that entire balance would be forgiven, meaning you never have to pay it. In terms of eligibility for the Customer Assistance Program, it's just based on household income. And again, it's by the federal poverty level, similar to these payment arrangement terms that we talked about before. And we have a little chart here where you can compare the size of your household and your annual or gross income to determine your eligibility for that program. There's a couple of different ways that you can apply for CAP. You can apply online, you can mail in an application, you can fax an application, and you can also email an application. One thing that may hinder your ability to enroll in that in the Customer Assistance Program is if you have a supplier. And we'll talk a little more about what that actually means to have a supplier later in the presentation. But what you want to do is you just want to check on the second page of your bill to see if you have a supplier, or if you already know that you've enrolled with a supplier and want to get on CAP, you just have to drop that supplier, cancel the contract, and then you should be able to apply and get approved. I'm going to go over some of the common issues that our clients have with the CAP program: application issues, arrearage forgiveness, the fixed credit option FCO, that's the way that the credit is calculated, and the way that CAP interacts with budget billing. So one of the most common issues that we find is just clients saying that they've sent in an application and PECO not having a record of it. For that reason, we like to advise clients to keep a record when they submit an application. That can be a little easier if you submit the application by email because you have that record in your email, or even if you submit it online through PECO's online portal, there's an option to request that you get confirmation that that application was sent in. Definitely advise clients to do that so that they have a record. If you fax it in, you can also keep a copy of your fax receipt. And if you're mailing in the application, just making a copy so you have that for your internal records. Another thing to keep in mind is to be sure to submit your documents to the correct department at PECO. So PECO will often ask for verification of your household income for other purposes than just CAP. Like I talked about before, PECO uses your household income to determine your eligibility for payment arrangement terms. So one department at PECO may request your income information, but that department may not be CAP, right? So you may send off your income information thinking you're sending it to CAP, but it's actually going to a different department. So that's why you definitely want to refer back to that prior slide about the different ways that you can submit your CAP application, and be sure to use one of those specific methods just to make sure that your information is going to the right place. That comes up a lot when someone submits an application and then PECO requests additional documentation, like additional pay stubs or something like that. Often in that next step, a client may end up sending their information not to that proper department, and that can hinder their ability to enroll in the program. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you don't have any household income, there's a specific form for you to fill out. That form is available on PECO's website. You should also be able to call PECO and request both a regular application and a no income form to include with that application. And then after you submit your application, definitely be on the lookout for requests for additional documentation. There might be an issue with the pay stubs that you've submitted. They may not be recent enough, or there just may have been some other issue where PECO is requesting some additional documentation. So you want to be on the lookout for that so you can submit it in a timely fashion and get your application approved. And I would definitely say if you're having trouble enrolling in PECO's CAP program, or if your application is denied and you believe you're actually eligible, that's a good situation in which you want to contact CLS. Or if you're assisting someone who's in that situation, that's a good opportunity to refer them to CLS for help. In terms of issues with the FCO, which is again how that credit or that discount is calculated, one thing you can be on the lookout for is that when you're on the CAP program, most customers should be receiving a bill that is equal to a percentage of their income. Now that may not be every month you get a bill that's equal to that percentage, but especially over the course of a year, it should average out that you're getting a bill that's equal to that percentage of income. So we have a little table here where you can go by your federal poverty level tier and then look at the percentage of income that you should be paying when you're on the CAP program. And that percentage is different based on your income, but also based on the way that you heat your home. So if you use electric heat, like baseboard heaters, in other words, you don't use gas or oil to heat your home, the percentage that you pay may be higher than if you use gas and oil heat and just use electric for your appliances. If you're on the CAP program and you're paying much more than that fixed percentage of income, there may be some legitimate reasons why, especially if you're a high user, but there may just be other issues with the program itself. So that's a situation where you'd want to be referred to community legal services so we can take a look and see if you have merit for a complaint. In terms of budget billing, just to give an explanation of the way that works. So when you're on budget billing, you pay a fixed amount every month based on the average of what your bill would be throughout the year, rather than paying your actual charges. PECO's looking at your historical usage and then just giving you the average, the monthly average of that amount. So they look at what you've used for the year, divide that by 12, and then charge you that amount rather than the actual bill. The difference between that budget billing amount and the actual bill is put into a deferred budget amount. And so if at the end of the year, you've paid more on budget billing than what your actual bill would be, that's okay. PECO keeps track of that difference. And if you go off of the program, the excess that you've paid can be applied as a credit towards your new bills. The amount that you pay on budget billing gets recalculated every 3 to 4 months just to keep up with the fact that someone's usage may change. It may not stay the same from one year to the next. So it does get recalculated, but that can be tricky if someone has a really significant fluctuation in their usage. So budget billing may be a good option for you if you have a fixed income month to month and therefore are looking to pay the same amount on your Pico bill month to month rather than paying more when you're using more electricity versus using less. You may be a higher user in the summer months if you have an AC unit than in the winter months, especially if you heat your home with gas or oil. And if you want to be setting a budget where you pay the same amount on your Pico bill every month, this may be a good option for you.
Hello again, everyone. Sorry about the earlier disruptions. I'm back to talk a bit about grant assistance. So there is grant assistance available to help customers prevent shutoffs. LIHEAP is still open. It closes on April 30th this season. So we're encouraging everyone to get their LIHEAP applications in before the end of the season. LIHEAP includes 2 separate grants, the cash grant and the crisis grant. The cash grant is starts at $200 minimum grant. It depends on your income and your household size. The crisis grant is up to $800, and a person can receive more than one crisis grant. The income eligibility is at or below 150% of the poverty level. UESF is the Utility Emergency Services Fund. It's up to $1,500 maximum for PECO and PGW, and up to $3,000 maximum for the water. To get a grant, a use of grant for water, the customer is not able to be on the TAP program. So you might have run into a problem if you're seeking a water grant and the customer is on TAP. To qualify for USIF, the income has to be at or below 175% of the poverty level. Then there's also this new ERAP program, which is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And even though it's called ERAP, it does include assistance for utility bills. It covers your current utility bill or up to 12 to 15 months of past due utility bills. And the income eligibility is all the way up to 80% of the area median income. So more than $54,000 for one person. This is a new program, and we urge anyone who is eligible to apply before those funds are exhausted. So how do you apply for this grant assistance? For LIHEAP, you can dial 866-857-7095. Tell the LIHEAP office that you're about to lose heat or you have a past due bill. We also have a website where you can access this season's LIHEAP application. For USIF, you can dial 215-972-5170 or visit a neighborhood energy center. And we've listed the neighborhood energy centers that are available to process USIF applications. Hunting Park, United Communities, ASE, We Never Say Never, and Congreso. For the rental utility assistance, the ERAP, you can visit phlrentassist.org or call 311. Another resource is weatherization and home repair. Some households are unable to control their energy costs because of a structural repair or an inefficiency in the home, like drafty windows. Weatherization assistance is available from a variety of agencies to assist customers make their homes more energy efficient and to reduce the cost of energy bills over time. So the weatherization assistance and home repair programs that are available. LIHEAP crisis interface. So I already told you that LIHEAP has two different grants, cash and crisis. But there's also another program, which is interface, which is available to both tenants and homeowners to make an emergency repair or replacement to a heating system or to a component of a heating system. The income has to be at or below 150 of the poverty level, and it's the same LIHEAP number, 215-560-1583. The heater hotline is available for heater repairs for homeowners. And that number is 215-568-7190. And then LIHEAP is the low income usage reduction program that's offered by PECO. They'll provide the installation of free energy saving measures. Your income has to be at or below 200 of the poverty level. And you can apply by calling 1-800-675-0222. The Basic Systems Repair Program, Csrp, is a program that some of you may be familiar with, but it provides a variety of structural repairs to owner-occupied households that meet income eligibility guidelines. The services that are eligible: electrical, so any dangerous electrical conditions in the house; plumbing, such as leaking or broken sewer lines or water lines; heating systems, repairs and replacements for systems that are not working and that the hotline or LIHEAP can't repair; roofs, so major repairs or if there are significant leaks in the roof; structural repairs, such as repairs to exterior walls. There is a maximum spend, so the program wouldn't be able to rehab an entire home. But for many homeowners, this is an option to make repairs for free to the property. There is an emergency hotline where you can apply, 215-448-2160.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about shopping, which is something that we mentioned earlier in the presentation as an issue that can keep a customer from being able to enroll in PECO's low-income program, the CAP program. Shopping just means that you're choosing an energy supplier, another company to supply your electricity. This can get a little confusing because you will continue to receive a PECO bill. You won't receive a separate bill. PECO will still be responsible for distributing your electricity, which means that you'll still get that bill from them. And part of the charges will still be from getting that electricity to you, but the actual cost of supplying the electricity that you use, the rate that you pay, will be based on this other company that you've chosen to be your supplier. So often we have clients who come in and aren't actually even aware that they have suppliers, because the process by which they can be enrolled is kind of confusing, and there's some predatory practices that cause that to happen. But one way that you can check whether or not you have a supplier is on your bill. So that box at the top of the screen, that would be on the first page of your bill. And you can see there where the arrow is pointing, it says electric supply. And then Residence Energy, that's one of the supplier companies. So in this case, this person, their supplier was Residence Energy. Again, they can continue to receive a bill from Pico. These are cutouts from a regular Pico bill, but the supplier is Residence Energy. And then on the second page, you can also look to how your bill is calculated, and that's that box at the bottom of the screen. The information there is really useful because it not only shows you in that highlighted section that this person has a supplier, again, Residence Energy, but it also shows you the rate that the supplier is charging. So in this case, it's 0.1505 cents per kilowatt hour. And then if you look on the right-hand side of that box in the message center, Pico tells you what their price to compare is, meaning what Pico would be charging you for supplying your electricity. Had you continued to stay with them as your supplier rather than made a contract with this supplier company. In this case, the rate that Pico would charge for supplying electricity is significantly lower than the supplier. And that's typically what we find is that often our clients have suppliers that are charging them much more than what Pico would charge. And that becomes an even greater issue when you take into consideration that having a supplier can keep you from being able to enroll in Pico's low-income program, which can provide a discount on the bill. So not only may you be missing out on a discount by having a supplier, but the actual rate that you're being charged may be higher than what Pico charges. Now, that's not always true, and often the suppliers will say that they're offering discounts greater than what Pico offers. But we do find that frequently our clients with suppliers are paying more than they would if they didn't have the supplier. So it's always good to take a look at your bill and to really read through the offer if a supplier is asking you to enroll with them. So as I mentioned, the tactics that these third-party energy suppliers engage in can be somewhat predatory and pressuring. And our clients, low-income clients, are especially vulnerable because these suppliers are generally offering savings, saying that enrolling with them will allow you to lower your energy costs. And sometimes they'll offer promotional rates, meaning that you may see a discount initially for the first couple of months, but you really want to read the fine print because sometimes you'll be signed up on a variable rate, meaning that it'll change after those first couple of promotional months. And then the rate that you're being charged is actually higher than the rate that Pico would normally charge. So there's a couple of different ways that these enrollments occur. There's door-to-door salespeople, there's telemarketing. You may see someone in Walmart or sometimes in the subway station. NRG will be there. And basically just people there offering you the opportunity to sign up with them to enroll in these supplier companies. And the terms that they're offering may be slightly misleading. Sometimes clients can be confused thinking that this is actually Pico offering them a discount when really it's another company. So you really just want to be careful, really look into what you're signing up for and know that if you're looking for Pico's low-income program, that's the customer assistance program that's available on Pico's website. That's not something that you'll be solicited by a door-to-door salesperson for. And if you're a limited English-speaking customer, you especially want to be careful and always seek out language interpretation before agreeing to anything. So you do have a 3-day right to cancel. So if you've signed up for something and then are thinking that you're not quite sure what it is you're actually signing up for, you're not familiar with the terms, or if you get a notice saying that you've been signed up and you don't remember enrolling, you want to take advantage of this 3-day right to cancel with the supplier. And if you have signed up past that 3 days, you always have the right to return to your default service, meaning you get your energy supplied by Pico again rather than this third-party company. You can do that either by calling the utility or by calling the supplier. And on that second page of your bill where it lists, if you have a supplier, it also lists a contact number for them. So you can use that number to contact the supplier to cancel. And you can also file a complaint with the utility and with the Public Utility Commission if you were switched to a supplier without your authorization. And you may also want to contact the Office of Consumer Advocates if you're in that situation as well, if you're having trouble getting off a contract with the supplier. So if you do cancel your contract, you will remain responsible for the back bills, and the same collection and termination procedures will still apply. Another thing you can look out for when reviewing your PECO bill is to ensure that you're receiving the proper rate. So PECO customers who heat their home with electric baseboard heaters, and this would mean that you're not using gas or oil, you're using all electric heat, you'll be eligible for a discounted rate in the colder weather months. So you can actually check your bill to confirm that you're receiving the appropriate rate or being charged the appropriate rate for your home heating setup. And if you determine that you're not receiving the proper rate, then you want to contact PECO and request a switch. And then PECO will likely conduct an audit and determine whether or not you're receiving the proper rate and make the switch if it's appropriate. The way to check if you're receiving the proper rate is again on that second page of your bill. If you look at the top of these two cutouts, one says electric residential service and one says electric residential heating service. So residential service is the regular rate that you're being charged if you do use gas or oil heat. You're not using those electric baseboard heaters. Residential heating service is the rate if you're using baseboard heaters and not using gas or oil heat. So that's one way you can check your bill to confirm the rate.
Now that we are in shutoff season, it's important to remember the dispute process and that customers who are unable to work out a resolution of their affordability concern, if you're unable to access a payment arrangement, you're unable to access the grant assistance programs, and you have a dispute over an issue related to your service, whether it's a billing dispute, the amount of the charge, or it's a problem even getting the bill into your name, you have a right to file a dispute. You can file a dispute if you are denied enrollment into PECO's CAP program, or if a medical certificate is refused. So the requirement under the state law is that for electric and gas customers, those are the two customers where our utilities are regulated by the state's commission. You have to attempt to negotiate with the utility before you go to the commission. So you go to PECO and you ask them for a resolution. And if you're unhappy with the decision, you can request a copy of the decision, and then you can file a complaint with the commission. The complaint, there's an informal and a formal process. To initiate an informal complaint, all you have to do is call 1-800-692-7380. Filing an informal complaint will stop a shutoff. But here's the key. You have to file at least 1 day before the shutoff is scheduled. So if it's the day of the shutoff and you contact the commission, there's no guarantee that that will stop the shutoff. If you're unhappy with the decision that is made by the PUC in your informal complaint, you can appeal that decision and file a formal complaint. That process is equivalent to the process of initiating a civil lawsuit, but you don't need a lawyer to represent you. you do have a right to access information about your account. So when you file a complaint, you can ask the utility to provide you with information that you can use to make out your case so that you can try to convince the commission to order whatever outcome you're seeking, whether it's a payment arrangement or enrollment in CAP or the approval of a medical certificate or whatever other issue you're taking to the commission. We often analyze cases for representation before the commission. So if you yourself think you have a dispute or you're working with a customer who may have a dispute, please don't hesitate to send that case over to us to take a look at. And then we have our contact information, so you can reach out to me directly or to Cameron directly or to all of the energy lawyers at CLS by emailing energylawyers@clsvilla.org. We have a website that has an entire toolkit that gives you resources you can use to help customers or to help yourself prevent a shutoff or to get service restored if you are shut off. So we covered a lot of ground, and I know that Cameron touched on some topics that we usually have a lot of questions about Pico's CAP and the way it works, about electric shopping, about the difference between budget billing and CAP and how to know which rate you're receiving. We also talked about grant assistance. Do you all have any questions for us about what we presented today?
And if you have questions, you can feel free to share in the chat or raise your hand and I can give you speaking privileges. Hi, Philip, just one moment. And do you still have a question? Okay, oh, go ahead.
Yes, the table earlier that you show according to the percentage of federal poverty guideline, is that table is they called the energy burden?
We'll go back and you can let us know which table.
Yeah, I believe if you're referring to this table.
Yes, this table.
Yes, yeah, those are also referred to as your energy burden. That's correct.
Right, okay, thank you.
Cameron, do you want to explain energy burden for those people who don't know what it means?
Sure. So the energy burden you can also just think of as the percentage of your income that the Public Utility Commission has determined is an affordable amount for low-income customers to pay. That guidance was recently updated, but PECO is still using the old guidance to calculate the discount for customers. So that those percentages, again, they vary by your federal poverty level and also by the way that you heat your home. The FCO, which is the fixed credit option, the way, and it's part of the CAP program, the way that your credit is calculated. That credit is calculated with the hope of providing customers with a bill that is equal to that energy burden or that percentage of their income. That's not always the case. Or that doesn't always occur. And so that's where if you're paying a lot more than what your energy burden is, it's a good opportunity to reach out to CLS for help. Like I said, there may be some reasons why, if you're a really high user, there is a maximum credit that customers can receive. So if you're hitting that maximum credit, that might be why your bill is higher than this percentage of income. But there's also other reasons that are just problems with the way that the credit is calculated that may be causing you to get an insufficient credit to bring down your bill to that energy burden guideline. And so those are definitely opportunities where you want to be reaching out to CLS for help.
We've got a couple of good questions in the Q&A. The first one is for the PHL Rent Assist Phase 4, can homeowners get help with past utility bills?
So for that one, it's open only to renters. This is money through the federal stimulus to provide assistance to renters. There are some stimulus resources for homeowners, but this particular program isn't for homeowners.
And then there's another question. If you have utility arrears, do you have to live in the address where you accrued your arrears to be eligible for the assistance programs like LIHEAP, CAP, or ERAP?
No, so that each, these are different programs and their quirks are different at each, with regard to each program. So for LIHEAP, one rule to note is the new residence old balance rule. So if you're using LIHEAP to connect service at a new address, but you have a past due balance from an old address, the LIHEAP rules will only allow you to use up to 50% of the grant on the prior balance. So that's one nuance. But if it's a situation where you had an account in the past and then you moved and then your balance transferred with you, you could apply for LIHEAP on that balance. You could apply for CAP or ERAP. If you're not seeking to initiate service by using one of these grants, and you're using it to pay down a past due bill that may include arrears from another address, you are still eligible for assistance. There may be additional funding opportunities that arise. At least one program has been proposed to the state's commission, and we don't yet know what's going to happen with all of the stimulus funding. So as new programs and services become available, we'll be updating the CLS website and keeping everyone up to date as best we're able. So if you're not connected to us through social media or the web, I would suggest you add us so that you can keep up with what's going on. Any other questions, concerns, things you're seeing that you want to talk to us about?
And just as a reminder, if you have questions that come up, you can feel free to reach out to any of us. I'll be sending around the PowerPoint and recording of this presentation. So if you have questions that come up, just feel free to reach out to us. But if it looks like we have no other questions, I can go ahead and end the webinar a little early. Thank you so much, Cameron and Josie, for presenting and sharing this information.
Thank you, Cassidy, and thanks for everyone who attended today.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. Thank you so much.